Today I'll be showing you how to create an assessment template using Intelligent Assessment's WISDOM2 model. All you need to do is to follow our 12-step process using the WISDOM2 model to get a really great assessment for your business. Before we start on the WISDOM2 process, what we'll do is we'll just take a quick look at what the output is of the assessments. So on this slide, you can see the RAG assessment for one of our previously crafted assessments. So this example has got 3 sections on the left-hand side: delivery, outcomes, structure, and robustness. And then just to the right of that, it's got subsections. So for delivery outcomes, we've split that section up into 3 subsections of links between outputs and business plans, benefits, and costs. What we'll do is, during the process, we'll ask you to define both your sections and subsections. The first step in the WISDOM2 model is to write your assessment objectives and user scenarios. Now, I'd really suggest using a flip chart or a Word document or an Excel sheet or a combination of the 3 to start creating your assessment. I'll flag it when you start using the tool to start documenting your assessment, but for the first few steps, we definitely recommend having brainstorming sessions to get you in the right place. So step 1 is to define the purpose of the assessment. So is it to generate new business or revenue? Is it part of a suite of assessments? Or is it just a short assessment to hook people in for a more comprehensive assessment further down the line? Identify who will be administering the assessment and who the target audience is. So is this something that one of your consultants is going to administer? Is this something that you'd expect your potential customer to do themselves? Or would you train up a team within your customer's organisation to conduct the assessment on your behalf effectively? The second step is to identify the aims of the assessment. So you want to clearly articulate the goals and objectives of the assessment and specific insights or outcomes that you're trying to achieve. So is it an assessment to look at the maturity of a various function with the business? Is it something that it's either a pass or a fail? Or is it just trying to identify where things are going wrong? The third stage is to specify subsections of the assessment. So if you remember a second ago, I showed you what the output is going to look like on the RAG assessment, where you've got your sections and subsections. You actually start with the subsections. So start listing out all the potential subsections that you could have that would make up your assessment. Brainstorm it within a group of people within the organisation and come up with your list of subsections. Now, you can add to these subsections later on once you've added your subsections within the tool. So it doesn't have to be an exhaustive list. You can add to it later on, but get a really good kind of first list of the subsections. In stage 4, we look at all the subsections and we start grouping them up. So you may have naturally 3 groups of the subsections that will then become your sections, or it can be more than that. I would tend to advise to have around between 3 and 6, I'd say, because you've got to remember what the output is going to look like. And if you have 20 sections, it's going to be, it's not going to look particularly great. So what you want to do is to make sure you've got the optimum number of subsections. You also need to consider how long this assessment is going to take. We'd recommend that an assessment takes no longer than 45 minutes. So bear that in mind, because you may want to break this up into several assessments, but have that at the back of mind in terms of making sure that you have the optimal number of sections and subsections. So again, just to emphasise what it's going to look like in your final RAG assessment, so you'll see here we've got the example that I took you through before, where you've got 3 sections and multiple subsections that feed into it. This looks like it's a kind of an optimum number of sections and subsections. So in this example, you've got 3 sections, and each of these sections has got 3 or 4 subsections. So it's really easy to kind of digest, and it looks good. Step 5 is to organise questions for each subsection. So at this point, I'd start entering all your data into intelligent assessments. So you've got all your sections and your subsections. So you start writing questions for each subsections. Now, remember I said a minute ago that you should take no more than 45 minutes for a typical assessment. Start thinking about the optimum number of questions and how much thought was going to be going into each of the questions to answer it. So you don't have to get it right first time, but it's just something to consider. I would suggest that you have no fewer than 2 questions per subsection, and I'd say have no more than 6 questions per subsection. It'll make a lot more sense in a second when we start going through the various kind of permutations of combinations that you're going to have to write summary sections for, but anywhere between 2 and 6 will keep things straightforward at the start of doing this. Ensure your questions are clear and concise and aligned with the assessment objectives. And I will say that this is your opportunity when you're writing your questions and then your answers to impart your 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years of experience into your questions. We don't promote using AI to write questions. We do use AI, but elsewhere, and we'll go on to that a little bit later. But try and invoke both your experience and your personality within the questions. So if you want to make them a little bit tongue-in-cheek, then this is your opportunity to get your personality across. It's probably worthwhile just looking at the types of question that you can ask and the answer formats. So we've got 3 examples here. The top example is where we've asked a question and we're using radio buttons for the answers. So we've defined in this example 5 answers for a question, and we're asking whoever's carrying out the assessment to select one that is the closest to the scenario. So in this example, they've selected number 3. The second sort of question that you can ask is one that uses sliders. So in this one, you're asking how much contingency has been built into a plan, and you've got a slider there that goes from, I think it's 50% down to 0. But all the values can change based upon the inputs that you put into the question. And then finally, the third type of question is one that has checkboxes. So you could ask a question that asks for select all the things that are relevant to you. So in this one, it's around testing, and we're asking around what test phases have been planned. And you can see there that we've selected out of 5 possible answers, we've selected 3 that are relevant to that situation. In step 6, you'll map scores to answers. So you'll create answers using your experience, and as I said before, don't fall into the trap of using AI to define your questions or even the answers. This is supposed to be from your experience. Define scoring for each answer on a scale of 0 to 10 for each of the answers that you define. as you go through the process. Now, you can change the answers later on, or even when the assessment is live. So if you've found another scenario that you want to consider it within the answers, or if you want to change the scoring, then you can do anytime within the life of your assessment. So we're now at the halfway point in the WISDOM2 model. So you've done the first wisdom, so you're all wise now. So you've defined the structure of your assessment, you've created the questions, the answers, and then you've scored all the various answers. The second half of the WISDOM2 model will concentrate on completing the status report and then identifying the interventions that will add value to whoever's completing the assessment, which hopefully you can turn into new revenue for your business. Step 7 is around weighting your answers and your subsections for importance. So you've got the ability to add weights to the subsections and also to the answers based on the relative importance. For simplicity, we've got preset weights in the tool, and there are 4 categories. There's very high, high, medium, and low. And this ensures that critical aspects of the report carry more significance in the assessment. Step 8 is where we identify interventions for improvements given the answers. So this is probably the most important part of the assessment builder. And we identify potential interventions or actions to address areas that are going wrong. So these are where you got the low scoring answers, and you're identifying sensible things to improve the situation. You may want to consider how you or your company can offer any additional or new services that you can interweave into the interventions. So what I mean here is, if you've got a low scoring answer on some sort of capability based question and they score low, you may want to suggest that they come and carry out a training course, or they want to have some consultancy support, or something else that is in your armory of services that you can offer. So as I said, this is a really great way of promoting your business services within the assessment. In step 9, we simulate the scenarios and summarise the findings. So we're basically looking at the various patterns of answers to your questions in each of the subsections, and we're writing a description in terms of what the summary is or recommendation is for each of the scenarios. Now, the Intelligent Assessment Builder is really great at visualizing the various scenarios. We've got a different video that takes you through that process, but we think that we've built something that is really good, and it explains it really well in terms of how you build up the various scenarios. So by the time you got to the end of step 9, you're almost there. You've created your first assessment, and what you need to do now, which covered off in step 10, is to develop testing strategies. So the way that I usually do it is to look at doing the first testing yourself. So you take a happy path example where you go through the assessment and you answer all the questions really positively and see what the result is. Then, and if it works, then that's great. Then take another assessment, or carry out another assessment, and then answer everything negatively and see if that aligns to your expectations. Then what I then do is look at real life examples of previous work and answer the questions based upon those real life examples, and you look at the output. If there's anything that doesn't look well, then you can go through and start tweaking it. So you can start tweaking the various questions and answers. You can start looking at making changes to scores, and you can also look at changing the importance of the subsections and the questions itself, but optimize the assessment based upon doing these activities. For step 11, we've got to a point where you are happy that you've got a really great assessment, and what you want to do is obtain feedback from colleagues. So gather as much feedback that you can from people who've got different perspectives. So they can be subject matter experts, peers, managers within your organisations, and then similar to step 10, you're going to make adjustments based on their feedback. So you might want to again change scores. You might want to tweak the words of the questions or answers, or you might want to also consider changing the weightings of the questions and subsections. So you've now got a really good assessment, and you want to share it with customers. So step 12 is to modify the assessment based upon their feedback. So you're going to conduct a form of pilot testing with friendly customers to validate the assessment and get further feedback for refinement. And based upon that, you're good to launch. What we will say is that you'll want to continuously review and update the assessment based upon feedback. Maybe it's market trends will cause you to make changes, or regulatory changes, but you want to make sure that the assessment is relevant and it continues to be accurate. So it's not uncommon to change or to modify or tweak the assessment over a period of time. And you also might want to consider looking at the results of the assessments, and if there are lots of areas for improvement, you might want to start looking at changing your services to provide answers or provide assistance for those scenarios. So it's well worth looking at any trends over your suite of assessments once you've started getting it populated with customers. So that's the end of this presentation. I've taken you through the WISDOM2 model for creating a template, an assessment template with intelligent assessments. We've got lots more other videos on YouTube, on our website, where we'll take you through some specifics in terms of the functionality within our tool itself. So hopefully you've enjoyed this presentation. If you've got any questions, then please contact us directly.